On that note, let's go across and say hi to our next guest on the show, Rajat Rajgarhia, MD Institutional Equities at Motilal Oswal joins in. They have been in the midst of their conference. So Rajat, first thing first, how's the Josh, or how was the Josh in the conference?
Well, I think we expected that the conference will give a lot of interesting ideas. This was the first ideation conference that we have hosted, where about 120 companies participated and a large base of investors from across the globe essentially met these companies to figure out, how's the year ending, how's the next year outlook is looking like. I think on an aggregate, the overall tone was quite positive, and the markets over the last few weeks have anyways been on an uptrend. So all in all, the overall mood of the event was very, very positive.
Okay, Rajat, hi, good afternoon. So overall mood positive, but are there any risk factors which are being showcased right now? We've had a strong run over the last 2 months.
Well, I think a couple of important points. While there were specific sectors where there were words of caution. For example, autos. I think March month volumes for a lot of the companies is unlikely to be good, and a lot of the companies also did not had any great guidance outlook for the coming quarter, which is April to June. Select pockets of consumption, or I should say consumer staples, also were talking about some kind of a slowdown. So as far as companies are concerned, there were a large number of companies where things were looking better, but of course there were some spaces where we have seen some slowdown happening in the recent months, and some of those companies were also guiding for this to continue in the coming quarter also.
By the way, there's a very sharp up move on Bharti Airtel. It's something that you really can't ignore right now. There's a 3% gain on the stock, and if we look at it, yeah, pretty much the highs of the day. Let's pull up Vodafone Idea, because Vodafone Idea, since they announced the rights at 12.5 rupees, the stock has been steadily correcting.
That also surged, but that's come off.
Yeah, it's also come off. Some interesting moves on a couple of telecom stocks. Anuj, you were saying?
No, not, I was also spotting that move. Also perhaps Infratel, that's something to watch out for. I think HPCL, BPCL, IOC, some of the stocks of this series, they are having a very strong run, Surabhi. I think for me, the interesting stock for last few minutes really has been Z Entertainment.
Oh, yes.
That's been surging. It's been a very, if you see over the last few days, it's been, coming down. But today, the price volume action is quite interesting. 4.5% higher on that stock. Look at that move from 466, one way down, and now I think there's some support and it's seen some kind of buying.
I guess one thing's clear, that there's this moratorium, so big holders of the stock are clearly not selling in the market. And anyway, for now, it's hope intact on Z Entertainment. Rajat, let's go back and discuss some of these trends that we are spotting. I mean, on telecom stocks, for instance, is there any reason to start looking at something like a Bharti Airtel? Maybe not a Vodafone Idea, because they're still getting their house in order after the merger. But would you at all look at Bharti at this juncture?
Well, I think there have been multiple points over the last couple of years where investors have taken some contrarian call that you will see some kind of price stability or revenue stability coming for the sector. And given the kind of investments that companies have made, for them to earn any reasonable return on equity, you will see things normalizing soon. And we have seen, while these stocks have typically remained quite volatile, that 20-25% range, they have always traded, couple of times in a year. Again, I think we keep hearing that, you may see things normalizing sometime this year. And given the kind of underperformance that you have seen in the sector, also in the stock, you'll always have some contra investors who will look at this. I think we will need to see some definitive 1 or 2 quarters of improvement in the business trends before one can take a longer term investment call that the stock has bottomed out.
Okay, a couple of stocks making a move right now. One is Bajaj Finance. It's a new all-time high. I think it's approaching 3,000. The first time that the stock will cross 3,000 if it happens. 2995 on that stock, so don't lose sight of that one. Bank, another all-time high for that stock. That's in fact propelling the last bit of move on the bank nifty. In fact, it's the 3 p.m. now. Let's just see if there are some stocks. Larsen and Toubro is the one inching higher. ITC is the one inching higher. So some of the non-banks, heavyweights doing their bit right now. Titan has moved to high point of the day. UPL has moved to high point of the day. There's some names which stand out. On the way down, also there are some stocks like Escorts, ONGC, BHEL, which are making lows of the day, but more stocks making highs of the day like L&T. That's helping the market. Axis Bank as well. But suffice to say that 11,560 thereabout on the Nifty and about 30,430 on the Nifty Bank. There's a bit of a pickup happening in last few minutes of trade. It will be interesting to see if this sustains, because this is looking quite interesting. Your thoughts on a couple of these heavyweights, Rajat, Larsen and Toubro and ITC?
Well, again, if you look at ITC, this is again a ranged stock, right? You will always find some move happening in this stock here and there, but you still miss some definitive triggers for one to turn quite positive on this name. This kinds of become a value stock whenever markets move closer to their highs, but we do not have any strong view on ITC right now. As far as L&T is concerned, I think it has been in the news for a lot of reasons, right from the buyback to the takeover now, but I think the core fundamental story of a pickup in the order book, a better investment cycle ahead, these two things are very, very paramount to the investment argument of this stock. Rest of the things keep creating some volatility in this space, but I think on an overall basis, one should remain positive on this name, considering that the next few years are going to be far better for the business of L&T than the last 5 years that we have seen.
Okay, Rajat, so as we let you go, just final closing thoughts then. We've had a very heady month of March. We're getting into elections. What are you advising clients for the next, let's say, 6 odd months? Are you in the camp that believes that post-election we'll get a cool off and some of this euphoria will die down? Or do you think we're really set for a big bull trend? In which case, what is the advice?
Well, I think while election will be an event which will create, I think, more volatility than a definitive trend, the bigger trend in the making, I think, is the global interest rates. I think almost 100 basis point fall in the US rates. India hasn't participated in this global easing at all. And I think that trend is ahead of us. And that is one big positive that equities will get driven through over the next 2 quarters. So I am more positive on the trend of the interest rates going down rather than taking any stronger view of the impact of elections on the markets.
All right, Rajat, we leave it there today. Thanks a lot for joining us. I'll tell you something, the stock of the moment for me is REC. And just look at that stock. That's the VWAP magic working.